After a delicate surgery, my daughter-in-law exposed me, but my son's arrival revealed an increasing tension between us. Martha lay on the couch, an awkward stack of pillows supporting her healing body. The room felt both foreign and intimately familiar, a space that had once embraced warmth and laughter, but now felt suffocating in the wake of her daughter-in-law Sophia's penetrating gaze. "You could do more, Martha." The words echoed relentlessly in her mind, cold and sharp, piercing through the fog of pain from her recent surgery. What was the more she could offer? The more she could find beyond the endless duties of mother and grandmother? The once reliable nurse now felt like a shadow of her former self, physically vulnerable, emotionally mired in the undercurrents of her family's changing dynamics. While Martha had given her life to nursing, tending to the ailments of others, she found herself suddenly clinging to her own thoughts of the groundbreaking technique she had long kept buried beneath layers of societal expectations and familial roles. It was hidden deep within her, a potential that had always seemed secondary to the importance of being a supportive mother and grandmother. But as the weeks passed in her fragile state, a quiet anger bubbled within, her legacy reduced to mere whispers under the aura of Sophia's ambitions. Loss crept in, uninvited, threatening to soil everything she had built. And then there was Jake, her only son. Martha's heart stuttered at the thought of him returning, a respite from the city's grind, only to be plunged into this tempest of conflict. How could she admit her struggles to him? How could she confront the truth that the vibrant life she had given now felt like a resignation to shadows? The walls of her once thriving home felt like they were closing in, trapping her between Sophia's ambitions and her own buried dreams. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Now, every visit from Jake seemed weighed down by the unspoken tension between the two women, the air thick with unacknowledged resentment and competition. Sophia's social media ambitions had begun escalating into a campaign intended to bring attention to her own success, meticulously bypassing Martha's legacy, and it lingered like a storm cloud over dinner conversations. It was a precarious battle of recognition, with Martha shoved into a corner. Each bite of food felt heavy in her throat, every polite conversation tinged with bitterness and discontent.
One fateful night, the tension erupted. "Why can't you step into the light for once?" Sophia demanded, her voice cutting like glass. The flames of their heated exchange ignited a realization that cracked through Martha's protective barriers, opening a flood of emotion she'd kept locked away. Would revealing her life-turning discover pave the way to respect, or fracture paths entirely? Just as Martha braced herself to voice a truth long silenced, the buzzing of smartphones announced Sophia's campaign had gone viral, engulfing them all in a wave of public scrutiny. With her family and their fractured dynamics poised at the brink of change, Martha inhaled deeply, her heart hammering, determined to navigate this eruption without losing herself, but knowing the journey had just begun. Martha paced the confines of her living room, the familiar walls closing in, reminding her of all the dreams she had precariously balanced through the years. With each step, the conflict between duty and desire became more pronounced, thudding against her chest with every heartbeat. She could feel the weight of expectations, suffocating yet familiar, as if they were part of her skin. Sophia's words echoed in her mind, relentless and accusatory. You could do more. What could she do? The question spiraled into a void, dragging her deeper into self-doubt. The urge to break free from the routine that had defined her life was growing stronger, igniting within her a yearning to reclaim her identity beyond maternal roles. She suddenly recalled the excitement of mastering a new technique, a revolutionary approach to patient care that had inspired her all those years ago. But each time she reached out for it, the walls pushed back. Those around her expectations were tangible, daunting obstacles she was tired of succumbing to. In moments of quiet, she found herself contemplating the many sacrifices she had made. nights spent studying after long days in the hospital, opting out of family gatherings in favor of patients who needed her at odd hours. The passion once kept her energized, now it left a bitter taste in her mouth, a reckoning, a realization that she had subordinated her ambitions to belong, to support, to nurture. Jake's return offered a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil, yet the familial tensions gnawed at her. Each time he walked through the door, Martha saw more than just her son. She saw judgment folded in his brow, disappointment hidden behind every smile. Their conversations were weighted, wrapped in too much history, artfully evading accusations that hung like smoke in the air. Her fears expanded. What if he also saw her as a relic, a woman clinging desperately to the past? And then, perhaps most hauntingly, she felt the anxious pull to confront Sophia, a confrontation that could either shatter their already fragile bond or lead to a mutual understanding, a pathway towards respect instead of rivalry. Who would she become if she dared to set boundaries?
What did it mean to assert oneself amidst harsh judgments? Holding back these considerations felt intolerable, yet speaking them into existence represented a risk. The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the floor. Inspiration flickered at the verge of her consciousness. Martha grabbed a notebook, the pages blank, yet filled with possibility. Perhaps documenting her ideas could be the first stride in reclaiming her narrative. She began to articulate her thoughts, letting the emotion surface, flowing through her pen. Practicing the new technique she had once envisioned for the patients, she scribbled medically sound principles that blended compassion with innovation. The cathartic act churned within her, a spark igniting as the words transformed into clarity, reclaiming a piece of her professional self long forfeit. But beneath the exhilaration loomed the unaddressed conflict with Sophia, the growing public scrutiny that clouded their relationship more ominously with each day. Just as revelations danced on the tip of her tongue, the door swung open. Jake stepped into the room, brows knitted, eyes glistening with concern. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, his tone drawing her focus like a magnet, recoiling slightly at this call to confrontation. Martha's heart raced as possibilities tumbled through her mind. This was the moment she was waiting for, or the one she dreaded most. She opened her mouth, prepared to voice everything that had been quietly simmering beneath the surface, only to pause. Would she seize this chance to reshape her narrative, or would inertia reign again? The silence stretched between them, pregnant with unsaid truths, each second heavy with anticipation. The moment was at hand, a defining juncture that threatened to either launch her forward or hold her back in the abyss of conflict. Jake's gaze bore into her, channels of concern etching lines on his youthful face. The air crackled with unspoken questions. Martha realized then that this wasn't merely a conversation, it was a potential turning point. With a steadiness she didn't fully feel, she finally spoke. "What is it, Jake?" The words emerged, raw and unpolished, but they did echo the primal need to connect, to understand if this was a confrontation or an invitation. "Mom, we can't keep pretending everything's okay. You're not happy. I see it." His voice was steady, but his emotions flickered as if fighting to break through the secured walls he had built around his feelings. "You've sacrificed so much. You don't have to wear this mask anymore." Martha's heart raced. His perceptiveness both shook and comforted her. She had always presented a strong facade, concealing the tremors of uncertainty beneath her confident exterior. Yet here, before her son, the dam was bursting. "I don't know how to navigate this, everything."
"I've been so focused on everyone else's needs that I forgot about my own," she admitted, her voice growing softer, tinted with vulnerability. "You've got so much to offer, Mom. Remember why you went into medicine in the first place? You wanted to make a difference, not just be a caretaker at home." Jake pressed, leaning closer. She could see the desperate plea in his eyes, a desire to reach the woman trapped inside the duties she had accepted. "I used to believe in that passion, Jake. I've lost sight of it." The weight of reality hung in the air, a suffocating cloud of longing and regret. Her admission was like peeling back the layers of a wound she had thought healed. Jake reached out, grasping her hands. "And let's find it together. You're not alone in this, Mom. Just tell me what you need to do." Something shifted within Martha, the gentle prodding of his words dissolving a corner of her fears. Could they really explore this uncharted territory together? I've been thinking about returning to that technique I had learned, the innovative approach to patient care, she said, each syllable wading through long-buried dreams. Then go for it. Start writing, plan how you can implement it, and see what happens at work. You have the knowledge, just unleash it, Jake encouraged vehemently. The idea resonated deeply within her, a flint strike against the darkness. What if she channeled her frustrations into something constructive instead of allowing them to corrode her spirit? The possibilities bore an intoxicating allure. However, the specter of Sophia loomed ominous and unavoidable. What would her colleague think about Martha re-emerging with newfound ambition? More importantly, how would that confrontation feel, laden with the weight of years and rivalry? Would it help or hinder this nascent journey towards renewal? Mom, if you want to confront Sophia, whatever that looks like, you deserve to stand your ground. Jake's words cut through her spiraling thoughts. Don't let yourself be sidelined any longer. It's time to show them who you are again. Martha took a deep breath, feeling a twinge of both dread and determination settling within. Facing Sophia seemed like a necessary evil, yet she had to come to that moment on her own terms and ground herself in her own new capabilities first. As she met Jake's unwavering gaze, a wave of gratitude washed over her. His support was a lifeline thrown into her tumultuous waters. In the glow of their shared vulnerability, Martha felt the spark of renewal swell in her chest, guiding her toward the path she had long avoided. This was just the beginning. Her journey was starting to unfold. If only she had the courage to take that next decisive step. Okay then, we do this, she finally said, her voice gaining strength. But even as resolve washed over her, a pit of anxiety tightened in her stomach. The confrontation with Sophia was still weighed heavy against her burgeoning hope.
The pull toward clarity and confrontation was inevitable, and her heart knew that the difficult conversations were unavoidable. The transformative path lay before her, and she had to choose carefully how to navigate it. As Jake squeezed her hands gently, encouragement flooding through him, she understood one truth. Facing Sophia would be a pivotal move, one that would either propel Martha into her awakening or ensnare her in familiar entanglements. And as she closed her eyes for a moment, bracing for what lay ahead, she was struck with a deeper realization. The moment of truth wasn't just coming. It was already here. Martha stood on the precipice of change, the certainty of her decision blossoming, even as uncertainty loomed in the background. Her reflection in the hallway mirror was both familiar and foreign. She looked like the woman she had always seen, yet she felt transformed. The whispers of doubt mingled with determination, each day inching closer to a professional resurrection she'd barely dared to dream about. Returning to her innovative approach in medicine was not merely a professional goal, it was a lifeline. With each passing moment, she clung to it tighter, a makeshift raft in her swirling ocean of fears and aspirations. She wove through her daily motions, performing her responsibilities at home, but the notion of rekindling her passion flickered like a small flame in her mind, offering warmth against her cold, uncertain heart. As she settled into her evening routine, Martha turned her thoughts to the impending confrontation with Sophia. The beginnings of her strategy formed as she made dinner. She'd need to assert herself, to reclaim what she felt had been unjustly stripped from her, a sense of agency, an identity, and most critically, her passion for medicine. Martha? The voice, faint yet persistent, dragged her from her reverie. It was Jake, his casual demeanor a balm over her tempestuous thoughts. Have you thought any more about that plan? I mean, the one with your technique? His simple inquiry hurled her back to the fire she had only recently acknowledged. Yes, I've sketched some ideas, she replied, tapping into the excitement of unveiling possibilities. I want to draft a comprehensive proposal that outlines the benefits this approach can bring to patient care. I need to start with the basics, statistics, patient testimonials, everything I can think of. Jake nodded, a proud smile breaking free. That's exactly what you need. What's the worst that can happen? Each worst-case scenario looped through her mind like a relentless cycle. Facing Sophia loomed like a dark specter, one associated with a lifetime of competition, rivalry, and envy. What if I met with derision or resistance? She countered, her voice wavering as her doubts began to claw their way back up. What's to ensure that they would take me seriously? Because you have your passion back. That's powerful, Mom. Walk in there like you own the place. You've got the history and the talent. Don't forget that. Jake's words resonated, rubbing against her insecurities and daring her to rise above them. The next day, as she entered the hospital, Martha was filled with the sharp amalgam of anxiety and excitement. The fluorescent lights buzzed, illuminating the familiarity of the environment she had long considered home, yet it felt tainted by the years she believed she had lost. Upon reaching her office, her heart thudded as she brushed her fingers over the dusty desk. The untouched papers laden with ideas felt like dormant seeds waiting for the right conditions to sprout. With a small notebook, she began to write. Bullet points morphed into filled pages as clarity unfurled before her. What she had once envisioned could be reborn. She could reestablish herself in this space. As she started organizing her thoughts for the proposal, her mind wandered to Sophia. The steadfast colleague, the one who often overshadowed her presence, had built a reputation that made Martha feel like a ghost haunting her own career. Yet the waves of doubt crashing against her newfound determination began to recede. The memories of late nights and surgical rotations, of saving lives, and of profound compassion outside the operating room, seeing a professional opportunity to redefine her purpose. The plan for confrontation swirled in her mind as she finished drafting the proposal, a blueprint for a future she longed to reclaim. She peered through the office window, watching nurses and doctors bustling, feeling a mix of longing and hope. The very essence of her journey depended on her next steps. With her heart ignited by determination, Martha made her way toward Sophia's office, the words forming in her mind. Words that would shape not only a recovery of her position, but an assertion of her identity. Today was not merely a chance to confront. It was a chance to redefine who she was in the place she loved. But as she rounded the corner, with sharpened resolve, she found Sophia stepping out of her office, a knowing look plastered on her face. The moment of truth was upon her, yet its weight felt heavier than before. Martha hesitated, breath caught in her throat, not just from fear, but from the sheer realization that this was only the beginning of her real fight. Martha's heart raced, caught between fear and resolve. As Sophia stood before her, the air thickened with unspoken tension. This was a moment that had been years in the making, and yet the enormity of it struck her dumb. She had rehearsed her words 1,000 times, yet now they remained locked behind her lips. Sophia crossed her arms, an all too familiar posture that signaled both defensiveness and dominance. "Martha, I didn't expect to see you here," she said, her voice masking anticipation with casual indifference. "What brings you to my end of the hall?" At first, the words failed to form in Martha's mind. The instinct to retreat into the familiar shadows of her insecurities tugged at her. Old memories flashed, moments of self-doubt against Sophia's unfaltering confidence, years spent in the background, quietly accepting a subordinate role. But the ember of determination sparked once more within her. "I'm here to present an idea," Martha managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "A proposal for a new approach to patient care that I think could yield significant results." Sophia's eyebrows raised slightly, a flicker of curiosity breaking through her usual facade. "Oh, really? I didn't know you were still interested in that sort of thing." The statement dripped with skepticism, and for a brief moment Martha's resolve wavered. Yet beneath the surface, a surge of adrenaline viciously fought back. This was her moment, not just to present an idea, but to reclaim a part of herself she felt had been lost. Drawing strength from Jake's encouragement, she pressed forward. "It's time I shared my perspective. I've developed a comprehensive framework that potentially integrates innovative techniques with our current practices. I truly believe it can benefit both our patients and the hospital overall." Sophia's gaze sharpened, as if evaluating a rival on the surgical table. "You know how things work around here, Martha. Just passion and good intentions won't be enough to drive this through," she warned, dismissing Martha's enthusiasm like a mere nuisance. Martha clenched her fists, determination igniting like a flame within her. "I understand that this is a competitive environment, and I'm not asking for a free pass. But if we don't adapt, we risk becoming obsolete. My experience and insights could catalyze an essential change," she declared, each word falling from her lips like a challenge. A moment passed, one heavy with silent tension. Then Sophia leaned back, scrutinizing Martha. "You're suggesting that I consider your plan. How do you expect that to happen?" "I expect you to listen,"
Martha replied, fueling herself with quiet authority. We have to evolve in our approach. It's easy to cling to the old ways, but what good does that do for us or our patients? I want to contribute, truly contribute, to an environment where we all thrive together, not just as individuals. Sophia's expression flickered, caught in a brief struggle between dismissal and realization. Martha could see the gears turning in her mind, weighing the benefits against the risks. She was no longer just a placeholder. She was laying down the foundation for a potential revolution in their practice. Before Sophia could respond, a cheerful voice broke through the tension. "Mom, there you are." Jake appeared, radiating youthful energy that cut through the atmosphere like a blade. The warmth in his demeanor drew both women's attention, and in that moment, Martha felt the weight of her fear lift slightly.
"Jake, just wanted to say I'm proud of you," he interrupted, casting a quick glance at Sophia that conveyed a subtle challenge. "You're really going for it." Martha's heart swelled, the shift in dynamics empowering her in ways she hadn't anticipated. As Sophia's demeanor softened just a fraction, a new sense of opportunity dawned. Would this be a moment to partner, or was it merely another round in their long-standing rivalry? Heat rushed to her cheeks, but Martha embraced it. This was about more than just a proposal. It was about carving her place in a world that had made her feel small for too long. She had stepped onto this battlefield, and with Jake's support standing behind her, it was time not just to confront Sophia, but to declare her right to belong. As Sophia regarded her with new curiosity, something shifted in the air, but the deeper question loomed, unanswered yet charged with potential. Would this confrontation lead to collaboration or conflict? One thing was clear. The game had just changed, and she needed to be ready to fight for her vision like never before. Bursting with resolve, Martha felt the next step calling her forward. But which direction would she choose? The answer lay unfurling just ahead, waiting in the shadows. Tension crackled like electricity in the air between Martha and Sophia, the fine line of rivalry snapping tighter. Jake's warm declaration hung suspended above them, melding with the weight of Martha's burgeoning ambition. As he beamed in her direction, Martha felt the bittersweet sting of validation, alongside the old familiar pang of insecurity that threatened to swallow her whole. But as eye contact was forged from Jake to Sophia, a silent challenge passed between them, anchoring Martha back to her resolute purpose. What if, just what if, this could be her turning point? With her heart still racing, Martha could feel the flames of determination reignite within her. This wasn't merely about proposing a framework for patient care. It was about shattering the walls of imposter syndrome that had boxed her in for so long. Yet the uncertainty loomed. Would Sophia bridge the divide or dismiss her outright? So, Sophia finally spoke, her voice laced with a new edge of intrigue. "You want my attention? What do you propose we do with it?" Her tone fanned the fire of Martha's confidence, encouraging her to rise to the occasion. Taking a measured breath, Martha felt her thoughts crystallized. Instead of just delivering care, we can create an interactive platform for patients. By engaging them directly in their treatment plans, we can foster a community that encourages recovery through connection. I've researched modern practices, and I believe these changes could drastically improve our patient satisfaction ratings. People want to feel seen and heard in their healing journey. Sophia's eyes narrowed slightly, her expression a borderland of skepticism and curiosity. "Some champions of patient engagement have had success, but that's not the conventional route we're used to. How do you plan to convince the board to overhaul established systems?" The question stung like a deployed dart. Familiar doubt crept in, threatening to suffocate her newfound confidence. Yet, as she caught Jake's supportive gaze, the resolve swelled within her chest. "I'll build a pilot program and track measurable outcomes. I'll present the data, the testimonials from patients, and outline a clear path for efficiency that can even reduce costs in the long run. I know the risks, and I'm prepared to meet them head on." For the first time, Martha noticed a flicker of something akin to respect bloomed on Sophia's face. She was an impenetrable fortress, yet a chink had appeared in the armor. "Ambitious and bold," Sophia finally conceded, her guard lowered just enough to glimpse Martha's potential. But just as fast, the tension surged back as a shadow cast over their conversation. Sophia straightened, an almost imperceptible shift as she steeled herself. "But are you prepared for the backlash? People don't like change, especially when it threatens their status. You might find yourself in a more precarious position than you anticipate." Martha swallowed hard. It was true. The prospect of backlash had always loomed large, an overwhelming storm on the horizon that could swallow her vision whole. Yet standing there, she felt her spirit stewing with something transformative, a resolve to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. "I've made my choice, Sophia.
I have no intention of retracting this. I'll face whatever consequences may come, she declared, articulating the weight of her commitment. Sophia presented a wry smile. It was more than just condescension now. It carried a hint of intrigue. Very well. I'd like to see the proposal you mentioned, but I hope you understand that in this world, enthusiasm doesn't assure success. Prepare yourself for a bumpy ride. Every nerve in Martha's body tingled with an awakening. This was her moment, however challenging the road might be. Should she falter in the eyes of her colleagues, every setback would not signify defeat, but fuel for her future growth. As she pushed through a sea of self-doubt and found herself respected in a different light, the door swung open to a future laden with potential. Yet simmering beneath the surface, a more profound complication began to unfold. Would her success disrupt the balance she had long maintained in her personal sphere? Questions swirled in her mind. Was she prepared to face not just Sophia's challenge, but also the existential dilemma that accompanied her ambition? The answer remained uncomfortable but pivotal, forcing her to confront an undeniable reality. In striving for her place, she would have to consider the impact, not just on her work, but on the people she loved most. And as she lingered in that realization, destiny unfolded its map before her.
What would become of the personal sacrifices she might need to make in the name of success? The stakes were an intricate weave of ambition and relationship, and now they must be navigated with delicate precision. What awaited her around the bend was uncertain, but she was ready to face whatever came next. The following morning, Martha awoke to an uneasy stillness. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, illuminating the space with a soft glow, but it did little to warm the gnawing anxiety in her stomach. She rolled out of bed, each movement a reminder of the weight pressing down on her shoulders. The day ahead would be pivotal. The board meeting loomed like a shadow, threatening her nascent confidence. As she brewed her morning coffee, the scent of roasted beans filled the air. It typically calmed her mind, but today it only intensified her resolve. She grabbed her notes and scanned them once more, as if memorizing a sacred text. With each paragraph she read, the sense of purpose surged through her veins, a vision of what healthcare could be. But doubt made its unwelcome return. What if the board dismissed her proposal outright? What if Sophia undermined her efforts? Martha shook her head, willing away the fears. Whatever was planned, she knew she'd made a commitment, not only to herself, but also to the patients whose voices and stories echoed in her mind. They deserved more than a system that boxed them in. After a quick shower, Martha dressed with intention. She selected a tailored blazer that fit her like armor. Its structure bolstered her confidence. She studied her reflection, searching for cracks behind the bravado. The woman staring back was a warrior, and today she would fight for transformative change, for recognition, and for her rightful place at the table. As she stepped into the office, the atmosphere buzzed with activity. Colleagues shuffled in and out, lost in their own routines, unaware of the battle brewing within her. The faint murmur of conversations drifted into her ears as she settled in at her desk. She mustered a deep breath, focusing on the rhythm of her heartbeat, a reminder that she was alive, present, and stepping into her power. The clock ticked on relentlessly, and the tension coiled tighter before the board meeting began. When she finally entered the conference room, members were already seated. Sophia was there, porcelain composure intact, her eyes sharp as they scanned Martha's approach. Jake sat a few seats down, offering a small nod, an anchor in the storm. With a feverish heart, Martha stood before them, notes clutched in one hand, the other resting on the table for stability. Thank you all for gathering today. I'm here to present a paradigm shift in how we engage with our patients. As she spoke, her words flowed with renewed vigor. Martha outlined her proposal, an interactive platform that would encourage active patient participation in their care. She highlighted data and testimonials that swirled in her mind like a symphony of hope. This was her calling, her voice breaking through barriers once erected by fear. But as she spoke, it became clear that Sophia had turned her interest into scrutiny. You're proposing a change that upends the very fabric of how our institution operates, she interjected, her tone sharpening. How do you intend to handle the inevitable pushback? What's your contingency plan if stakeholders resist? Martha felt the tension mount, but she had anticipated this. Resistance is part of growth, Sophia.
I'm prepared to address concerns as they arise. This isn't merely an initiative, it's a necessity for our patients, and I will ensure we create a framework that takes everyone into account. Sophia's eyebrows knitted together, skepticism apparent. The answers Martha had rehearsed felt insufficient in that moment, uncertainty flaring within her like a wildfire. Would convincing them of her vision require more than metrics and plans? She pivoted, addressing the room with urgency etched in her words. Imagine the satisfaction of our patients, seeing them engaged and empowered. This isn't just about numbers, it's personal. Their stories alone illustrate the potential for transformation, and I believe it can resonate with them deeply. I need your support to bring this vision to life. The board shifted in their seats, and for a heartbeat, silence cloaked the room. Was it enough? Anxiety clawed at her chest. But just then, Jake spoke up. Martha is on to something, he said, his voice steady. We have an opportunity here to redefine our institution's role in patient care. Let's at least explore her proposal further before shutting it down. Hope flickered at Jake's endorsement, an unexpected ally in a sea of doubt. But Sophia's eyes held a guarded glint, as though she were weighing her options, ready to strike back if necessary. After a tense exchange of opinions, the meeting ended with an agreement to further explore Martha's ideas. But as she exited, the battle continued, a mix of triumph and trepidation. The approval had given her momentum, yet the road ahead was still uncertain. With one foot in a new dawn, and the other still anchored in her past, Martha pondered the precarious balance she must maintain. The deeper she drove into her professional ambitions, the more her personal connections, the ones that grounded her, started to flicker like fragile candles, facing the winds of change. Could she hold the line without losing the people she held dear? A gnawing apprehension urged her to find an answer. It was time to engage not only within these walls, but also to confront the challenges lying just beyond them. Would she sacrifice her personal harmony to achieve her professional dreams? The essence of her journey unfolded with its challenges, leaving Martha to wonder just how much she was willing to lose to gain everything she had ever desired.
And as she contemplated the intersection of ambition and love, one undeniable truth emerged. She needed to confront the very relationships that could either elevate or undermine her ascent. The moment demanded clarity, but clarity often came tinged with painful truths. Martha's resolve strengthened as she left the boardroom, but the weight of unanswered questions pressed against her. Each step felt heavy, burdened with the knowledge that the fight ahead extended far beyond corporate presentations or strategic plans. It was her relationships, those connections that had once brought her comfort, that now sparked a conflict she could no longer ignore. She headed to her office, each footfall an echo of her internal struggle. The door creaked as she entered. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, yet it felt cold. She put her notes down and paused, staring blankly at the say skyline. The growing urgency to discuss her ambitions with Mark weighed on her mind. In this moment, fear of confrontation mingled with the desire for his support. Martha had meticulously crafted a life where her career flourished alongside her personal relationships. Now that balance felt precarious. She recalled the countless evenings they'd spent discussing their dreams and aspirations, a harmonious dance of shared values. But how would Mark react to her newfound ambition? Would he champion her or question her commitment to their family? The thought of Mark's potential disappointment gnawed at her, gnawing deeper than any boardroom skepticism could. She imagined his scowl, the one that had once only flickered with discontent when she discussed her contributions at work, now looming large in her mind. Steeling herself, she decided to confront the impending conversation head-on. Picking up her phone, she typed out a text. "Can we talk tonight?" She hesitated, debating whether to add specifics about her proposal. Ultimately, she kept it simple, knowing that the emotional weight could overwhelm their evening. With plans set, she turned back to her work, diving into the details of her proposal. She began outlining potential strategies for garnering support from stakeholders. If she could catalyze a movement of interest around her ideas before approaching Mark, it might bolster her confidence. The concept was no longer just a policy, it was a tangible vision. The hours flew by, and once she felt she had something substantial crafted, Martha glanced at the clock, anxiety rising as she realized it was almost time for Mark to arrive home. The door swung open moments later, carrying with it a rush of warmth and familiarity. Mark stepped inside, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Hey, how was your day?" His inquiry was genuine, but she could see a hint of concern in his gaze, as if he sensed the weight of her thoughts.
Long, Martha replied, her voice threading uncertainty as she pushed her notes aside. I have something important to discuss.
Mark's demeanor shifted. Curiosity piqued. Okay, is it about work? She nodded, feeling the tremors of vulnerability tighten in her chest. Yeah, I presented an initiative at the board meeting today. It's about a new platform to engage our patients more directly and actively. Each word felt like a stepping stone, leading her closer to a cliff she wasn't sure she wanted to leap off. They didn't dismiss it, but there's pushback from some board members. His brows furrowed slightly as he processed her words. That sounds promising, but if there's pushback, how do you feel about that? Martha inhaled deeply, grasping for clarity in the whirlwind of emotions. I feel excited but anxious. This requires more of me, Mark. I need your support, but I'm scared about what this means for us. Silence stretched between them, the atmosphere thick with unspoken implications. Mark leaned against the wall, assessing her with an intensity that made her squirm. Martha, you've always had my support. He paused, words hanging in the air. Don't lose sight of what matters to us. His concern was genuine, yet it simultaneously felt like an anchor. She knew he cared, but was he implying she would have to choose between her career and their relationship? The dread at the thought of splitting responsibilities hung like a dark cloud. I'm not willing to lose us, but I can't ignore this opportunity either, she said, her voice unwavering, though uncertainty dripped from each syllable. Where do we go from here? His question felt crushing, as if everything depended on that moment. Martha drew a deep breath, heart racing. This conversation would redefine their path forward, pushing the boundaries of their relationship to the very edge. She had to determine whether she was prepared to stake her dreams against the unknown of their shared future. Maybe we both need to explore what this opportunity means for us and what it demands from both of us, she replied, resolving to dive deeper into the conversation rather than drift away from its intensity. Could she navigate this delicate balance of ambition and connection, and would Mark stand with her as she pursued her vision? Martha's heart hummed with a mixture of fear and anticipation, realizing their next discussion could either forge a stronger bond or fracture the foundation she had spent years building. Tension pulsed through her, and as she caught Mark's eye, a thought crystallized. The journey of her professional ascent was undeniably tied to their relationship, a dual-edged sword she must wield carefully. The moment of truth was near. A decision awaited. Would she embrace the totality of her ambition, with all its repercussions, or retreat into the safety of what she knew? Martha's pulse quickened, as the realization hung heavy in the air. Mark's gaze was unwavering, and in that moment, she understood that the stakes had been set. They were poised on the brink of something that could either solidify their partnership or unravel it entirely. Let's be open then, he urged, leaning in slightly, breaking the invisible barrier that had settled between them. The shift in his demeanor spurred her forward, the encouraging warmth amidst her swirling doubts. I want you to know that I didn't pursue this without deep reflection. The past few weeks have forced me to evaluate what I want and what I'm willing to fight for, she said, her voice growing steadier. This isn't just about the job. This is about me understanding my identity, my potential. Mark nodded slowly, appearing to absorb her words. There was a moment where silence fell again, not heavy this time, but as a coated invisible layer of openness. Each needed to express, to be raw. What do you think it means for us? He inquired, his voice softer this time. Martha took a deep breath, feeling the vulnerability of the conversation coalesce into a surge of resolve. I think it means we need to redefine boundaries. I can't shy away from my passions for fear of losing the life we've built together, but I also don't want to pull you into a whirlwind that you aren't ready for. His brow furrowed thoughtfully. I mean, what does it demand from us, Martha? You're already busy with work and our home. Adding more feels like a recipe for disaster. Change isn't easy, but I don't want us to become stagnant. The balance will be fragile, yes, but growth rarely comes without discomfort. She felt fierce, a newfound drive bolstering her intentions. Mark's expression shifted. There was a flicker of something. Was it apprehension, acknowledgement, or a blend of both? Martha thought back to the evening spent dreaming with him, where they envisioned their future filled with possibilities. Why did this catalyst threaten that vision? Okay, let's say I support you, Mark began cautiously. What does that look like? What are you willing to sacrifice? Martha's gut clenched. Sacrifice. The word tasted bittersweet on her tongue. It's not so much about what I'm willing to lose, but what we can choose to embrace.
I'm not saying I'll become neglectful or prioritize work over you and the kids. It's about integrating both worlds. Integrating, he echoed, a note of skepticism lacing his words. I've watched you pour your all into your career. What makes this time different? His challenge struck deeply. Because I'm not just seeking validation anymore. I want to be a part of something impactful. If I don't try, how will I ever know what I'm capable of? The energy between them crackled, the urgency palpable, tipping the scales of their decisions. Mark straightened up, breaking eye contact briefly. What if your aspirations push you so far from where we are now that you lose sight of this life? Martha stood her ground. Then I'll reevaluate, but running away from this opportunity because of fear isn't an option. I love you, Mark.
But I have to understand what my capabilities are. If I can't balance it all, then we'll navigate that if and when it comes. The atmosphere grew dense, the walls around them echoing her words back like a distant reminder. His face tightened. She could see the mental gears turning. Did he see protectiveness in her ambition, or was he fearful of what it might mean for their family? Mark finally spoke. I just want to make sure we're on the same page, that this isn't a decision that alienates me or the kids. Then let's discuss it. Let's lay down the framework of what this looks like for all of us. The potential escape routes of avoiding this engagement flickered in her mind, but Martha was done playing safe. In that moment, she felt the weight of her own aspirations meld with their collective resolve. Perhaps they could lay the foundation of something stronger together. Mark nodded slowly, a tentative understanding beginning to form between them. There was much left unresolved, yet a shared commitment to navigate the turbulence of these decisions lingered in the air. Martha's heart beat with a rush of optimism, a distinct transition from earlier trepidations. Maybe this was just the beginning of breaking down barriers and forging deeper connections, both personally and professionally. But as the silence enveloped them again, a nagging thought emerged. Would Mark truly be willing to embrace this journey alongside her, or was he simply caught in the tide of her enthusiasm, waiting for the right moment to voice his doubts? The question hovered tantalizingly close. They were on the cusp of movement, yet what would the next step reveal? Would Martha's pursuit of ambition strengthen the bonds that tied them, or unravel the threads of their life together? The path lay before her, yet the clarity still eluded. The following days brought an exhilarating shift in Martha's life as she dedicated herself to developing her proposal and navigating the complexities of her renewed ambition. The hard-fought recognition at the board meeting had ignited a fire within her, and every moment spent working on her innovative approach to patient care felt like she was finally reclaiming the pieces of herself. However, this newfound professional focus blossomed amidst the backdrop of mounting tension at home. With each passing day, Martha sensed a gradual diversion in the energy between her and Mark. The conversations that had once flowed effortlessly were now punctuated with uncertain pauses, as if they were both hesitant to venture too deeply into the implications of her career advancements. It was as if they danced around the precipice of change, each avoiding the confrontation she knew was necessary. But Martha had no intention of remaining stagnant, and the urgency within her propelled her toward that vital conversation.
One evening, after dinner had been cleared away and the children's laughter faded into the background, Martha felt compelled to address the elephant in the room. She turned to Mark, who was scrolling through his phone, and said, "We need to talk about where I'm headed with my career and how it might affect us." He looked up, concern flickering across his features. "Are you sure this is the right time? Things are so hectic already with the kids and everything." Martha nodded, the weight of determination solidifying her stance. "I know it's hectic, but it's crucial that we lay this out together. I can't ignore what's at stake. My drive to make a real difference in healthcare is intertwined with our life as a family. If I'm going to take this leap, I need your support." Mark sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. She could feel the tension he carried. "Martha, it's not that I don't support you. I just worry that you're just going to become too consumed with work. We've built a life centered around family. What happens if you become wrapped up in your career?" Martha swallowed hard, but her resolve didn't falter. "I understand that, and I appreciate your concern, but I'm not looking to abandon our family. I want to integrate both parts of my life. I can't see this opportunity as a threat to us, rather a chance for growth. I want my kids to see that pursuing your passions and making an impact in the world is valuable." Mark's expression softened, and for a moment they held each other's gaze, like two explorers navigating uncharted territory. "I want that too, but it's a big risk. What if you burn out? Or what if this takes you away from what we've built?
I've thought through those fears, she replied, her voice steady but laced with emotion. This isn't just a fleeting thrill for me. It feels like my calling. It's about making patient care more humane, about giving people a voice in their own health. But I also need to be realistic and communicate my limits. He nodded, seemingly weighing her words. Okay, but you need to promise me you'll keep an eye on your work-life balance. I don't want us to become strangers while you chase your goals. Agreed, Martha grinned, relief washing over her. We'll put plans in place to communicate openly. I won't slip away without a trace. Our family is my anchor. I'll take care not to lose sight of that. The tension in the room began to lift, and feeling her emotions flow into the conversation instead of retreating made all the difference. They defined windows of work hours and family times, adjustments that would allow Martha to pursue her passion while staying grounded in her family life. With a sense of progress pulsing through her, Martha continued to dedicate focused time to her proposal, collaborating with her colleagues to strengthen her framework.
As days morphed into weeks, the proposal morphed from a mere idea into a concrete initiative, complete with statistical analysis, patient feedback, and projected outcomes. And finally, the moment arrived. She stood at the helm of yet another board meeting, this time ready to present her refined initiative along with solicitations for support. Her confidence radiated. She had cultivated a narrative of empowerment through patient engagement that offered tangible benefits to both the hospital and its clientele. As she spoke, the eyes of her colleagues, once skeptical, now glistened with intrigue. Each meticulously crafted sentence echoed the depth of her vision, breaking through barriers she had long thought insurmountable. Her proposal was met with applause, not just from the board, but from her colleagues who had once doubted her. Breaking that glass ceiling transformed not only her professional identity, but it redefined her familial interactions as well. Mark, seated among the audience, beamed with pride, the warmth spreading through Martha like sunlight. In the days that followed, Martha found herself navigating an environment where her ideas were welcomed and nurtured. Conversations shifted from doubts to affirmations, rich discussions about future possibilities and collaborative efforts. She felt revitalized, her sense of self blossoming into a confident and empowered version of who she had always wanted to be. Yet amidst the success, an urge lingered in the back of her mind. How could she further bridge her professional and personal responsibilities? Legacy had never simply been about career triumphs. It was about integrating her life with purpose, demonstrating to her children what it meant to carve one's path. With renewed energy coursing through her, she proposed the idea of hosting workshops and seminars at the hospital. These gatherings would emphasize the importance of family and patient engagement, allowing her to weave together her professional aspirations and her role as a dedicated mother. As she took those initial steps in planning her first event, Martha reflected on how far she had come, from a woman shackled by self-doubt to one who embraced her identity and stood firm in her vision. Not only had she cultivated a sense of purpose in her career, but she had fortified her personal relationships with authenticity along the way. Surrounded by both her family and newfound supporters in the hospital, Martha realized her journey had not merely involved navigating ambition, but fostering deeper connections to the people she loved most. She had become a beacon for others, illuminating their potential to pursue dreams while remaining anchored in those who mattered most. With satisfaction radiating through every fiber of her being, Martha knew she was living her truth and exemplifying the strength that lay within balance. True success, intertwined with profound relationships, a testament of personal transformation.
She had conquered her fears and thrived, emerging with clarity and fulfillment. This was not just a new beginning. It was the realization of a promise kept to herself, her family, and to the countless patients who would derive immeasurable benefit from her pioneering work. Martha grinned, feeling boldly alive, ready to embrace whatever came next. Now it's time for you to reflect on your journey. Don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss out on more exclusive personal overcoming stories that can inspire change in your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm that brings more emotional stories to the forefront. Comment below your reactions and theories about Martha's transformative journey and what it means for personal ambition. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Let's spread the message of personal growth and achievement.